All right, guys, are you thinking about buying a house in 2025? Today, we're going to go over a pile of things, but mostly first-time home buyer related. We're going to go over the more of the mortgage side and then also the counties to kind of show you the most affordable counties to buy a house around here. Now, I want to disclose that we have a few things in here that are kind of Virginia related. Now, I would think most states have these kind of things as well. But if you're buying in Virginia, of course, we'd recommend calling us. But if you're looking in other states, you might need to do a little bit more digging into it.
Yeah, I would say 95% of all information we'll go over applies to you, no matter what state you're living in. But every state has a little finer details and different programs, and we'll go into those details now.
Right. So first things first, if you're a first-time home buyer and you're calling me, in fact, we're meeting a lady later this week. What are we doing?
Right away, you want to get pre-approved, or at least pre-qualified. You want to talk to a lender, just have them pre-qualify you, and it's not as big and scary as it might sound. Most lenders can do a soft credit pull, so it doesn't even hit your credit. And yeah, it's just a good first step to figure out how much can I afford, what kind of loan type best works for me, what's my housing payment going to be. That way you're not looking at houses that are outside your price range, or even if you can afford them, it might be a housing payment you don't want. You want to pay something less than that housing payment.
And I'll tell you, with the three loans that we're about to go over, one has a geographic location that it has to be.
Yep.
One is grant dependent, so very income and kind of, again, geographic a little bit too. And then the other one's very credit driven. So depending on
your scenario
is really going to depend on what kind of loan's the best for you.
For sure, and we'll go over kind of the rough details of these loans and why each one may be more effective for certain individuals. But the best first step is to leave it to a professional, talk to a good lender, a good local lender, have them run your scenario, and then, come out on the other side and know exactly what what loan type works best for you. Hey.
Yeah, so we'll jump right into the loans now. So we have an order, but there's really no order here. It really depends on your situation. But first things first, let's go over the United States Department of Agriculture RD loan.
So yeah, one of the first loans I would recommend, if you can qualify for, it's very specific, more stringent, but it's USDA. USDA is a small percentage of all loans that are done across the nation, probably like less than 1%, but it's always good just to explore and see if you qualify for them. I've done USDA loans in the past. The way it works is you can go online, look up USDA eligibility map, or look up USDA location. There'll be a Google link that you can pop up and click on. You type in an address you're looking to buy, and then it'll tell you whether or not it's USDA eligible. The reason why it's a good loan type is because it has no money down. It's 100% financing. Now it does have more stringent requirements, more stringent DTI requirements, but it's a good program to explore and just see if it works. And you never know, there's tons of houses you might not think are USDA eligible that are.
Yeah.
So it's a good program to look at.
And so Fredericksburg location, just to kind of give you an example, Fredericksburg and maybe like a 5-mile radius around it is excluded from this USDA map. But we're maybe 8 minutes away, and the line actually runs right through here. In fact, the neighborhood behind my office, the line runs right through it.
Yeah.
So half the houses are USDA eligible, the other half are not. So that's just kind of how it falls. But for the most part around here, and especially the counties we're about to talk about, yeah, very eligible.
Yeah, it's very eligible. So the next one up, that this is probably your most popular, most normal, quote unquote, normal loan program that most first-time home buyers go towards, or even
majority of borrowers.
Yeah, majority of borrowers in general. But FHA. FHA is your first-time home buyer program. First-time home buyers use FHA a lot. FHA, the standard program, 3.5% down. Your credit doesn't impact FHA's pricing as much on your interest rate, so you get more favorable interest rates. FHA is just a really good first-time home buyer program. Now that being said, it's 3.5% down payment. So like us here in Virginia, we have VHDA. There's national programs. I'm sure every state has programs like this, but there's bond programs that you can roll your 3.5% down payment into the loan. So you have no down payment.
Technically, I have two little loans.
Yep. But it's all one housing payment. It's all made one payment every month. And then you can pay off that second loan anytime you want to.
And then furthermore, there's like actual grants. So they'll actually give you the money depending on, like sometimes it's career oriented, like school.
There's all kinds. Yeah, I know there's
first
like
responders.
First responders, like doctor loans. There's all kinds of different, this is where it gets in the weeds of like your local area, your local state, what bond programs apply to you. But just in general, it's good knowledge to know that there is a lot of bond programs that allow for FHA with no down payment. It just gets rolled into the loan.
Yeah. So, but let's not lie, they are going to jack up the rate a little bit.
Yeah, and then, by the way, that's pretty much a good rule of thumb in general in life. Is like there's no such thing as a free lunch. Like nothing's free. If you're getting that second bond program, usually your rate's a little bit higher. There's more risk involved with the lender. There's little things involved. So you're probably paying a little bit more per month but it is a pretty good option if you don't have a lot of cash on hand to the home store.
Right. And then let's talk about, personally, my favorite besides USDA. But USDA has kind of gotten away because everything's just so expensive. And since they're so tight on DTI,
so yeah.
It's gotten, I mean, but 3 years ago, like this was my go-to. I would say 8 out of 10 of my loans.
And I think even on a national level, that number of USDA loans used to be like 3 or 4 or 5%, and then it just went 2%, then 3%, 1%. It's just harder and harder to use USDA.
Yeah. And now you'd say it's even below.
It's like less than percent, I'm pretty sure. I haven't looked into it lately, but yeah.
All right, so besides that little rant, conventional loans.
Yeah, so conventional
is exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah,
it is a conventional
loan. Mortgage loan. You think traditionally, 20% down payment, et cetera, et cetera. But conventional is a very good loan type. If and when you can, make a conventional work, it's usually very advantageous. But there is a first-time home buyer program with conventional. It's home ready. Yeah. It's a 3% down, so it's even less down payment than FHA. It's just more credit stringent based on your interest rate. Right. So just give rough numbers, you might have 2 credit profiles exactly the same. The conventional rate might be a 7%, where the FHA could be a 6%, just because FHA is not as stringent on what your credit score is. So conventional is a good option. There is a first-time home buyer program.
Yeah, because traditional conventional is 5% down, minimum down payment for entry, and then 3% is the home ready. Mm-hmm. But they also waive some things being a first-time home buyer with the LLPAs, and we have a video on that. I can link it, kind of go over what an LLPA loan level.
There is a video on this channel with that. But basically, the first-time home buyer program with conventional eliminates a lot of that.
Yeah,
which is why
it's a really good program. If you can qualify, it's a very solid program. So
it's kind of your main 3: USDA, FHA, and conventional. And then in those programs, there's specific, bond programs or home ready, or so that's where talking to a local lender and getting them to work all that out. You don't need to worry too much about the weeds of that. Just know the big takeaway is it probably takes less money than you think to buy a home. You may only need 3% down, 3.5% down, or 0% down. Just depends on your situation. So.
If you are a veteran, obviously VA is the way to go, whether you're a first-time home buyer or not.
If you're a veteran, you're more often than not, you're going to use a VA loan. It's the best loan type, best interest rates. Yeah.
So let's look at it. So if we were to do a $400,000 house, which is an average sales price generally in this area, USDA obviously 0% down. FHA 3.5% down. That'd be a $14,000 deposit. That'd be a $14,000 down payment, and then the conventional home ready 3%. $12,000. So conventional would be a little bit less down than say the FHA.
For first-time home buyers.
For first-time home buyer. Now, let's also talk about closing costs, because I think that's a big thing. Especially 3-4 years ago, veterans or other people that are doing 100% financing, they didn't really know about closing costs because sellers generally just paid in our area. That was like a very standard thing. But when the market got hot, it's not so much. So veterans were coming in saying that I don't have to pay anything, or say a USDA member was coming in saying we didn't have to pay anything. But that's not true. A good rule of thumb is closing costs, no matter what loan it is, 3%.
3%. Yeah.
3%. So that covers settlement fees, escrows, so think insurance, taxes, plus all your stamp tax and everything down at the county. We have grantor's tax for the state of Virginia. If you live up in Northern Virginia, they have some other taxes for like congestion and stuff like that.
There's all kinds of taxes. 3% is a good general rule of closing costs.
The goal is to get it less, but 3% will cover it. And that's what we're going to get into here with the counties. So you being a first-time home buyer, of course, we want to keep your cash out of pocket to a bare minimum, because you're gonna, one, we don't want you to be house broke, but also, two, you might want to do things at house. So we don't want you to spend all your cash. I do want to prepare you for it. So let's say 3% on a conventional loan. So you have a $12,000 down payment. You have $12,000 in closing costs. FHA 3.5, so $14,000 plus $12,000 for closing costs. $26,000 for the cash out of pocket for that one. USDA obviously being 100% financing, $12,000. Same with the VA, $12,000 on average. So I'm hoping you've waited around for this whole thing, because here's the thing. Sellers can cover this closing costs. There is a section on our contract saying for seller subsidy, which means that's essentially closing cost assistance. Now, I'm not going to promise everybody that you're going to get all this covered by any means, but there is a section in the contract, at least in Virginia, that we can negotiate closing costs. And I bought a house in North Carolina, same concept. I would say that most states will have some sort of thing in there, or you can negotiate really anything. So
yeah, so usually as a buyer, you can get, not maybe the whole 3%, maybe 2%, but it could be 12 or 9 or $6,000.
Yeah, we're closing a $410,000 loan next week. Rule of thumb would be 3%, 12 grand.
A little bit more, but yeah.
We got 10.
Which still covers
You got
all the
everything
closing
closed
costs
in
pretty
10
much all
grand.
covered, and he's getting back his deposit basically.
Yeah, he's getting pretty much back his deposit. So again, having good lender, good relationship, kind of working on those numbers. It is happening. It's happening more and more now that the market's softening up, and that's what we're going to get into here finally, kind of the counties and kind of going over market stats. Now I want to say national level is sitting around 4.2 to 4.5 of months of inventory. We've talked about months of inventory, but that kind of gauges the market, whether it be more of a buyer's market or seller's market, or kind of an average market being 3 months of inventory. So months of inventory for national standards, 4.2, 4.5, somewhere in there. It's actually showing a buyer's market for the first time in a while. So if it's a buyer's market, sellers, I'm not going to say are desperate by any means, but there's plenty of things for you to pick from. And so they might start paying your closing cost again to help sell their house. On our area, we're a tad bit more insulated, being that we're just south of DC, and there's a lot of government jobs, there's military bases, stuff like that. In our area, our average is right around 2.2. So we're still showing a seller's market, but I do have a county to go over that will actually show more of a buyer's market. So let's get into it. We're gonna go over 4 different counties, and they're gonna be stair-stepping down from like
most expensive to
most affordable.
most affordable.
Yeah. Stafford County, a very big county for commuters that are going up north, and just a big county in general.
Big county. Very expensive too.
Yeah, it is the most expensive, but there's a direct correlation from like further away you get from DC. Like per mile, it gets more affordable. So Stafford being on the fringe of that, 515 is the average sales price, and a 25-day on market projection for sellers. So, you know, less than a month, they're probably going to get an
Pretty healthy
offer.
market.
And so, you know, that kind of goes back into that closing cost or assistance or how much negotiation power you have. So 515 on that. We'll go one county further south, one that's near and dear to my heart. County I was born in, county I grew up in, county that I work and still live in, Spotsylvania County. 458.5. So what
Pretty
is that?
good. It's a drop of
60?
60 or so.
Yeah, $55,000,
Yeah,
something like that.
$55,000
Less just by driving 10 minutes further south. Days on the market's 29. Still a month before sellers are expecting contracts.
And another good point, all these counties have less and less property tax,
Right.
which actually affects how much you can afford, what the monthly payment might be. So
not only you get a better deal on
cheaper
the house,
but also cheaper property tax, which lowers your payment.
which lowers your payment on your mortgage.
Yeah.
All right. Another county I think is great for first-time home buyers, sold a lot of houses. First-time home buyers in this county is Caroline County, which is one more south of Spotsylvania. Caroline's great, especially if you have couples that go different directions. We have Richmond, we have DC, so folks will, maybe the husband go up north, the wife goes to Richmond, whatever. This
Good,
is
like,
a
central location.
Good central location, kind of everything. It's right on the 95 corridor, so it's very easy for people to get onto 95 and commute. And the average sales price, or the sold median price, not average, $380.
That's a lot cheaper.
So that's another, well, and even off 458.
Nearly
70.
you know.
Days on the market's 38. So now we are above a month before that seller's probably going to get a contract. And the months of inventory are 2.3. So it's still not a lot to pick from, but things are sitting a little bit longer down there. And so maybe that can work towards your negotiation.
Yeah, there's more likelihood you're getting closer to that. Closing costs being lower and lower because the seller's going to provide some seller credit.
Right.
Maybe use a USDA loan. You could bring almost nothing to the closing table or a couple $100. So, yeah.
Right. And let's talk about the most affordable county that I can find that I work on a daily basis, let's say, Westmoreland County.
Westmoreland.
It is east of Fredericksburg. It's going to put you about 30 to 45 minutes, depending on where you live.
A little more commute.
Outside of Fredericksburg. And then, so if you work up north from there. Now, Westmoreland also, there's a bridge to get to Maryland and some other stuff. So there might be a way. There's some train stations here in Fredericksburg, the VRE and stuff like that. So some weird ways to commute. But Westmoreland, by far, is the best bang for the buck at an average sold median price of $313.
It's crazy to see. That's $200,000 cheaper than Stafford County.
Yeah. So if you want to go a little bit further and you don't mind a more of a relaxed lifestyle, not as many things
Slower
to
pace,
do for sure. Westmoreland is your best bang for your buck. You can buy a heck of a house for $350,000.
And you're probably more apt to get seller credit, maybe, just depending on days on market.
Yeah, so days on the market, 60. So you're almost looking at 2 months, for days of the month. And then months of inventory, we're sitting at 4. So that is showing for the first time around here a 4.
It's like a full buyer's market.
4 month
basically,
of buyer's market. So
interesting. Yeah.
that is the best information I have for you guys today.
Yeah. But so basically, it's a handful of different loan types. It probably requires less cash than you think to buy a home. The seller, more often than not, can cover a lot of your closing costs, just depending on the market and the area. And then credit is a big factor too. Just knowing, you know, your credit score impacts the interest rate, impacts what loan types you can use. And yeah, and to Ben's point, you know, knowing what area you want to buy in and how much it can impact your payment, and you know, are you willing to commute
$200,000?
a lot? I mean, that's just a couple counties away, and all of a sudden you're $200,000 difference.
Yeah, really.
For the same
30
physical
minutes away.
looking home, probably. You know, so.
So yeah, I think that's going to kind of wrap up today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you stuck around to the end, because I think there were some good nuggets in there. And of course, we'll see you on the next one. And if you have any questions, especially in Virginia,
please reach out anytime.
Yeah, reach out. I have a little link that you can click a calendar link, and we can both hop on the call and talk to you.
Absolutely.
Any questions you have, we're here for you. So, all right, guys, see you on the next one.